Hello and welcome to Don't Bury the Lead. We recap WWE Smackdown every Friday night after the bell. We have a special night here. We're doing it Saturday instead of Friday night. My name's John Zindel, joined by Dom Scarcella. Dom, go ahead and tell the people a little bit about yourself.
We had to wait one extra day for my favorite part of the week. It's the post SmackDown recap. John, don't bury the lead. What's our top story from the SmackDown from September 8th, 2023?
Dom, we don't ever bury the lead. Not ever. And the lead is AJ Styles goes over Jimmy Uso in a bloodline type segment in the main event. Pretty surprising match here where AJ Styles goes over Jimmy Uso. There was interference then by the Judgment Day at the end. Dom, what did you think of this main event match?
This whole SmackDown was about people anticipating the power vacuum when the bloodline implodes. And that little wrinkle at the end with Judgment Day coming out after this match just adds to that. Great to see AJ in a singles match. Unusual to see Jimmy Uso in a singles match. I don't remember ever seeing him in a singles match. This match goes 15 minutes. This was a 9:41 bell time here on the East Coast, and they go until about 2 minutes remain in the telecast, so they can do that little bit at the end. This is a full 15-minute singles match. I don't think I've ever seen Jimmy Uso in a singles match, let alone one that goes this long against a high caliber opponent. I think it was a pretty good match. In fact, I even wrote that because it was kind of surprising to me to see Jimmy in that situation. I mean, AJ can go.
Yeah.
But Jimmy Uso. I mean, eventually, you're right. The Solo Sikoa is out there with Paul Heyman. They get minimally involved, but not really. And then AJ hits the phenomenal forearm for the pinfall after pummeling both Jimmy and Solo on the outside because AJ has very recent heat with Solo as well. He just wanted to get that shot in before Solo could interfere. Um, Neat match, neat finish. Not a total surprise if they let it go one on one that AJ would win, but somewhat of a surprise that there was no ganging up. What did you think? This is a pretty good match. I don't want to bury it, but the story surrounding it, I think, was more interesting, at least because there was so much stuff there. Where do you want to go with it?
Yeah. So I think everything really went well in the match as far as I thought it looked good. But I do have to admit, the Boston crowd seemed a little disinterested in it. And I kind of was at certain points because you had the bloodline at the top of the ramp.
Mhm.
Just sort of this, it almost is like they went out too early because it distracted from the pretty good action in the match. And I know they tried to like incorporate the storyline with the bloodline and AJ Styles, but I kind of would have just preferred just those two wrestling and then having, the schmosh at the end. But it kind of felt like more of a storyline match that was better than I had kind of anticipated. But still a good match, and Styles is just fantastic in there. And I can't complain because they usually do promos on the main event, and usually, you know, I have some feelings about that, but they gave us a real wrestling match, and it was actually a surprise finish for a guy who's pretty hot right now, AJ Styles, after winning this long feud with Karrion Cross and now beating somebody from the bloodline
Mhm.
is always a tip of the cap, right?
Yes, and I liked some of it was confusing, but I thought everything was presented sort of in a way that made sense. Paul Heyman and Solo Sikoa did not come out with Jimmy, but a few minutes into the match, they do arrive. It's somewhat of a surprise because we've seen backstage vignettes throughout the show with Paul by himself saying Solo's not here tonight. So to have Solo walk out, that was interesting. Then they have him slowly make his way down to the ring after we come back from that commercial break. And now you're wondering, Okay, is he going to get involved? Is he on Jimmy's side? Is he against Jimmy? Is he going to help AJ? Like what's going to go on here? So there was pretty good suspense there. It wasn't obvious to me what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And I like that. And then the surprise to me was the very end that you brought up, that Damian Priest and Finn Balor come out as AJ celebrating and backtracking up the ramp. They pummel AJ Styles and then throw him into the ring so that Solo can get his hands on him. Because right after AJ pins Jimmy, Solo rushes the ring to try and get back at AJ for pummeling him on the outside. And, AJ slithers out and he's kind of, hey, I won the match. I don't need to stay for a 2-on-1. Then he winds up, okay, well, now it's going to be a 4-on-1. And what did you think of Judgment Day coming out and kind of feeding AJ to Solo Sikoa?
I don't know what's going on. I got really confused by the finish. I was trying to add everything up, and I was like, why well, I know the Judgment Day called out the Bloodline earlier the night, and
Yes.
they were there at the end, but why would they attack AJ Styles randomly and then give him to the Bloodline? Like, trying to make a truce with them? I don't know.
Maybe because there are other factions involved, although one of them apparently is not the OC. It looks like AJ is breaking up the OC, as we saw right before the match started. AJ was basically ticked off at the other members of the OC because they were just playing on their phones while AJ got jumped backstage earlier in the night. So he doesn't know if he can depend on them anymore. So maybe in a WWE universe full of factions, maybe one of them can go away. And if one of them's going to go away, are you all right with the OC maybe disbanding and AJ going his own way?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like
Okay.
that hasn't really taken off. It's kind of a stale group as it is already. But if
Okay.
you could just take AJ Styles and have him go solo without the Good Brothers, and then, or have him be kind of could potentially join one of those groups. I was thinking like AJ Styles to the Bloodline would be amazing. Like if they could have another member of the Bloodline.
Hmm.
Like I like their dynamic with when they have all of the family members and one random non-family
Okay.
member. They went instead of they went very cartoonish with comedy with Sami Zayn. Maybe if you plugged in somebody like a little bit more serious and a good great singles worker like AJ Styles, that could be cool. I don't know.
All right. So you're really moving the story ahead maybe with some fantasy booking. All right. So while
Is that why
they're
they didn't attack him? Like I was trying to think, why didn't they attack him during the match?
yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it looked like that they were trying to make Jimmy earn it. And then, right at the very end when Jimmy gets pinned, yeah, then Solo rushes the ring.
Hmm.
But there were times it looked like you could even see on camera, great camera work again, is they had a mobile camera right over Solo Sikoa's shoulder. And there were a few times where you could see just Paul Heyman's hand come into view. And there's Paul Heyman's hand just trying to, I can't get it too close to my camera on my laptop here, or you'll just see a blurry hand. But, you just see Paul Heyman's hand come in at Solo's upper arm, like, no, don't go, don't go. You're here just to watch. That they wanted to make Jimmy earn it in a sense. But yeah, a lot of intrigue with the bloodline. I think this was weird for me because I didn't need the bloodline on this show. Now, what I got was good, but like I wasn't going, oh, I need me some bloodline tonight. I need me some Solo and Paul Heyman and whatnot. But it was there and it was good and it was main event quality and it took stuff that had been happening previously on the episode and spun it forward. So now there's going to be unanswered questions going forward. I think this is good TV writing. It was good wrestling. I think, especially this last segment, I think it was good writing. I think it leaves us with some not confusing questions, but intriguing questions. Like we want to know the answer because it kind of makes sense.
Yep.
Not as in, why would you do that? That's stupid.
Right.
Like I didn't have that reaction to anything they did.
Yeah. I agree, but What did you think of? We don't see him a lot in the ring as a singles competitor. What did you think about Jimmy in the
I've never
ring?
was a singles competitor. I know he can work in a tag team, but that's because he's waiting on the ring to get tagged in. There's that tag team dynamic. I don't know. He seems. I mean, he's above average.
Mm,
I don't think he's great as a singles competitor. But I mean, he was a worthy partner for AJ in this match.
yeah, I have to say, at least he wrestles a lot different than Jay and looks different than them now. Because before I would just mix them up. I was like Jimmy or
Yeah, like what's yeah.
they looked. I mean, they're twins or at least brothers. I'm not sure if they're biological twins, but
They're
um,
fraternal. They're not identical.
okay. But so now they have different looks. Jimmy's a little thicker. Jay's like a little bit like crazy eyed looking, or like they have different personalities. So I like
Mhm.
them kind of like moving in that singles direction. And yeah, that's the lead, Dom. But there's more to the show than the lead. So we're gonna move into the next segment here, the follow. So Dom, I start off with the lead. What's your second story of the night you want to talk about?
I don't know if I want to go to a totally different story yet. I want to continue with the main event story and talk about Judgment Day. They had a match tonight because since they beat Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens for the both Raw and SmackDown Unified Tag Team Champions, they can now appear on either brand in WWE speak as far as having the brand separate. So they make an appearance on SmackDown tonight. You're right, they do run down how they're now the faction that should be considered running all of WWE. They've been running Raw. Uh, they do call out the Bloodline and Roman Reigns for not being able to beat Sammy and Kevin. But, Damian Priest and Finn Balor were able to do it. Now they've got the belts. Um, Before we do get to their match with the Brawling Brutes, which I liked, does it sound to you like the WWE is pumping in some booze or purposely turning up the arena mics for Dominic Mysterio?
I don't know. I don't know if he's getting booed that much, or I honestly think it might be something else. So I think that there is some mic work going on, but I think the boos are that loud, but they're turning his mic down a little bit. So it sounds like the boos are overwhelming the mic.
Okay, so we think there's some sound engineering going on here, whether it's canned or really in the arena. It sounds like there's some canned booze. I noticed the same thing in the main event. The show went off the air as they just showed Solo Sokoa in the ring. It sounded like canned booze.
Yeah,
They've either got it on recording, playing the booze, or there's some booze coming from the audience and they're jacking the arena mic to make those boos sound louder. But yeah, they're doing some sound engineering here. It seems like to me, I can neither confirm nor deny, but watching on my streaming TV here seemed a little fishy. But
it
that aside, the Judgment Day's huge over. Um, they're over as heels, especially when Rhea's not there. Rhea's in India with the rest of the Raw contingent was having a big weekend in India. But Dominic Mysterio gets booed. Finn and Priest get sort of booed because they're supposed to be heels, but it's all good heat, right? It's not like people want these guys to go away.
oh yeah.
These
No.
guys have ascended. What did you think of the setup here? And then if you want to go into the match, go ahead with it.
Well, I love Dom touching the mic and getting booed like crazy. I think there is a modification. I did notice it. It was a little ridiculous. I was like, he's not getting booed this loud and he's not talking this low. But I still think that WWE is not good enough to get. I don't think WWE, whenever they pipe in the boos, it's usually very bad, or the
Okay.
cheers. It's very, very, very bad. So I think there's a little bit of a modification, but I think it's a legitimate reaction from the crowd, considering
Okay.
Dom's reaction. Um, so yeah, Judgment Day is on fire. They have a ton of titles, and they're a good mix. Then the match here, we got Butch and Ridge Holland versus Damian Priest and Finn Balor.
Yep.
Um, I mean, kind of what I thought would be kind of an obvious finish here. They just won the titles, but Damian Priest and Finn Balor are able to retain. So, Dom, what did you think of this match?
15-minute match. The Judgment Day stuff started right around 9 p.m. So this was to take us into that new hour. This was the hot thing to start the 9 o'clock hour. Um, I think this was a surprisingly long match that they let them have. Uh, Everybody seemed to work pretty well. I liked the finish, which was Damian Priest choke slamming Ridge Holland, then choke slams Butch on top of Ridge, then tags in Finn for the top turn double stomp for a pinfall on Ridge Holland. So you say, well, that isn't that overkill? Aren't they burying the brutes? Well, no, because like it was a 15-minute match. Everybody looked pretty good. This wasn't a squash. I mean, yeah, at the end they piled on because they're heels, but I don't think this was a burial at all. They show Pretty Deadly watching from the backstage area. So this was a good match to talk up maybe the WWE's tag team division resuscitating a bit. You know, you've got to showcase your new tag champs on both brands now. So this was a good first look at the SmackDown brand for Judgment Day. And they got a good match from some SmackDown long timers that everybody knows, and especially since they're in Boston, you know they like that old England in New England attitude. I like it, and then right at the very end, of course, post match, Judgment Day celebrating in the ring, and Bobby Lashley's music hits.
Yeah.
They walk to the ring, Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits, and Bobby says the bloodline is crumbling, but it ain't going to be Judgment Day taking over. It's going to be us. So this is what I mean. Like they're anticipating that the bloodline is going to implode or lose enough power where there's going to be a power vacuum. And now who's going to climb and claw their way up? I like where this is going. Don't want to destroy the match though. If there's anything in the match that you wanted to go over, let's do details from the match, or if you just want to jump straight to the extracurricular stuff, faction on faction.
I really only have two notes.
Good.
And I say this every week that I see him, but Butch really makes a lot of his time that he gets. He's not on every SmackDown, but he's quite good. All of his suplexes are really sharp, and they're really cool and unique. I like him a lot.
Okay.
And then the second note I have here is this is the first tag team titles event I've seen in forever. I feel like once Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens won the titles, I just stopped seeing them. So we only watched SmackDown.
Yes.
It just felt like that title had no momentum once they got it, which is kind of it's maybe it's foreshadowing what's going to happen, right? Where once Roman Reigns drops the title and there's a babyface that wins it, it's just going to be flat. It'll be awesome when the babyface wins, whether it's Cody, whether it's Jay, whether it's LA Knight. I don't know. Whoever it is that's going to dethrone Roman. But then, like, they're going to have the title for a month and then, or like a couple weeks, and you're going to just forget about it. So,
yeah, we didn't see Sami and Kevin a lot on SmackDown, even though they're allowed to cross brands. So you're right. It was basically a Raw thing. Now, Kevin Owens has been hurt for the better part of a month, maybe a month and a half. So he hasn't wrestled a lot. So, it would have been useless to jump brands during, say, August, the last half of the summer, when it was just, Sami coming over and not having a tag team match. But yeah, I miss Sami. I miss Kevin. I miss the belts.
yeah.
I think Judgment Day having the belts is good. You're right. When baby faces have the belt, it's tough because you like the baby faces to chase. That's always seems to be more interesting, or most often seems to be more interesting that the baby face is chasing. So yeah, it's good when the baby faces get the belts, but at some point they have to be overwhelmed and a heel has to get it, and that's what happened with Judgment Day. We saw that at the Premium Live event. It was a 5-on-2 match. And the heels, who were 5, beat the baby faces, who were 2. And now it sets up another chase. Now it sets up another, who's the next great tag team that ascends and chases the Judgment Day? I don't know who it's going to be. What about, you mentioned Butch making the most of his time in there. He goes for the 10 beats of the Bowery, which is Sheamus's move, on Dominic Mysterio, who was trying to interfere. So that was Dominic Mysterio's entry into this match. Is there's Butch getting him up. He only gets to 3 before Finn Balor rolls him up for a 2 count.
Yeah.
Butch is able to kick out though. But yeah, a little interesting move there. Yeah, Butch is a smaller wrestler. He's almost luchador like. He's frantic when he's in the ring. Like
Right.
he's growling. He's like the Tasmanian devil. If you remember your, the Looney Tunes cartoons.
Oh, of course.
That's him. I do like this character. They seem to have found something to do with the Brawling Brutes, even though they don't seem to be really in title contention. I also don't think this was a title match. They mentioned that if they could win here, then it would set up a title match, so they weren't in a title match.
Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't
But
even know.
they're in something. What do you think of what happened afterwards? It's faction wars. Do you like Bobby Lashley? Their faction doesn't have a name yet, but do you like Bobby Lashley, Montez Ford, and Angelo Dawkins walking down there and getting in the face of the Judgment Day?
Yeah, this is a great idea for a faction, and it's probably a much needed rebrand for Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins, because they have kind of like, they're frat boys sort of, but then you could tell they're like almost in their late 20s, early 30s. So it's weird to do like frat boy gimmick with the red cups. They have to get rid of that. So they're like, oh yeah, just put them all in suits. They look good. And then Bobby Lashley is the leader, and he's great. He's been great. Like he's been around forever. He can he doesn't have to be always wrestling. He probably doesn't really want to necessarily anymore as much at his age and his size. He probably just like, yeah, let me just do some promo stuff and bring up some young bucks. So it's a good idea.
I agree with you. I like it too. Yeah, we've been through the Street Profits and how we think this is a good change of pace for them.
Mm-hmm.
We like Bobby Lashley in this role, and I like people I like that people are on camera acknowledging that the bloodline is having problems, and not just as a passing factoid, but as to say like, yeah, we're coming for them.
Mm-hmm.
I like this. Because War Games will be here before you know it. Are they planning to have a bloodline versus someone else faction war? I don't know if they're going to bring back War Games to Survivor Series again. But, thinking ahead, we know the WWE likes to think ahead with major angles. So I like it. They have other factions who are eyeing the bloodline.
Yeah, some
good
things
stuff.
They really think out way in advance, which is good. And some stuff they throw right together in a week or two, which usually isn't that good. So they're at least thinking a little bit long term here. So that's the tag team match. I'll start it up with the next match I want to talk about.
Yes,
and
sir.
This was not only a match, but this was a promo. So L.A. Knight versus Austin Theory. We start off with a promo from LA Knight, and then we get a match with LA Knight and Austin Theory. What did you think of the promo by LA Knight?
I like the promo. I like that he's getting out there. They know he's one of their best on the mic, so they're letting him talk. I like that he's getting in there, and he's basically got 2 feuds going. He's got the Miz going on Raw, who's also coming over to SmackDown, but he's also got this Austin Theory thing, and now apparently it's involving Grayson Waller as well. I like the exchange. My notes towards the end of this were decent exchange, probably went too long, but it cements the camaraderie between Waller and Theory.
Yeah.
So I like what it did for Austin Theory and Grayson Waller, not just for LA Knight. I like that they're treating LA Knight like a guy who can carry a program and carry a segment, even if it's still sort of the mid card.
Yeah.
So, guys in the mid card can be awesome too. And you need that on your TV program. So I like that. And then, they went into a 10-minute match that I thought was pretty darn good. LA Knight winds up winning it with the blunt force trauma. There was a minor bit of interference from Grayson Waller. They just kind of delayed the ending, but didn't really change it. What did you think of what went on here? If you want to go match or you want to go promo or in what order do you want to go here? Because I liked all of this.
We'll do a deep dive on the promo during GP.
Okay.
So we'll do a deep dive then about the promo, certain aspects of it. So stay tuned, folks. If you're watching you're watching the show. If you want to skip ahead, go right to GP because we'll talk more about this. But I really, okay. So LA Knight came out. I was like, okay, he's killing it as usual. Crowd's going crazy. He's doing, some cheap pops here and there. Then Grayson Waller came out, and then Austin Theory came out, and they start talking. And they were talking, and Grayson Waller, like, I know he can say the lines. He's kind of getting some boos now, but I'm not digging his mic work just yet. I think it's
Okay.
so I'm not feeling him. It might be the accent. It might be that he's too corny. He's not like really mean enough. He's just like really corny. I don't know. So anyway, so not feeling Grayson Waller, and then poor Austin Theory just doesn't have it. He just isn't very good on the mic. So both these guys do say something, and then LA Knight says, "Are you done boring everybody, you two?" And it's like, that's what I was thinking, and he just said it. So he just buries them. Are you done boring everyone? And the crowd laughs because it's like, yeah, this is boring. And then he starts calling them all kinds of crazy names. I didn't get them down, or I don't know if I can say them on YouTube, but some of the lines he had were amazing. Far as the match is concerned, yeah, LA Knight versus Austin Theory. LA Knight goes over, so we have the right winner. And this was a really good match. Austin Theory's only impressed me since he's dropped the title. So
Right, maybe getting rid of the title is what he needed.
yeah,
Sometimes that works for people.
I
We
don't
talked months and months ago how we thought Liv Morgan got better when she got out of that Ronda Rousey feud for the belt and Ronda took the belt from her. Sometimes people, like, their characters do better without the belt.
He feels like a guy that is wrestling good that doesn't have a belt, and maybe should be a face. Quite frankly, I don't know, because just the way that he moves in there. But
He's a solid. This was probably the best wrestling match of the night as far as a classic pro wrestling match. Right? Both these guys are classic pro wrestlers. They have the build. They look like guys who could be in a fight.
yeah, and I'll tell you what, this is probably the best match of the night.
Mm-hmm.
I have so many notes because I kept writing plus and then what they did. So
Go for it. Yeah, 10-minute match, but a lot of good stuff, right?
yeah, LA Knight with the head smashes because the crowd can go, yeah, 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 yeah.
That's the gimmick now. If you're in a match with LA Knight, know that your head is going into that padded guard on the announce table, and so the crowd can go, yeah. Like, and that really, that's better than into the ring post or into the ring steps. But just
Yeah.
know that's your gimmick.
Slingshot over the top rope by LA Knight. That was a pretty cool move.
The shoulder tackle.
Yeah. Yeah, he slingshots and then hits the shoulder tackle.
Mm-hmm.
Simple, makes sense. It's a good use of the ropes instead of the Irish whip, which is ridiculous. I'm going to use the ropes to slingshot myself over and then hit you with my shoulder. Makes sense. Perfect.
Very athletic, too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a sneaky athletic move.
Yeah. So this match, there was no dive to the outside, but they have to get outside. So basically, Austin Theory does a move where he is at the top rope with LA Knight, and he kind of like almost like a DDT. He like smashes his head up against the apron, and then he falls off and he topples off into the floor. And so instead of a dive, which we've seen endlessly to go to commercial, they know they have to get outside to get to commercial. They find a unique way to do it.
I love that move. Can we go a little more detail on that?
Yeah.
That's LA Knight charging into the corner where Austin Theory is kind of dazed.
Mm-hmm.
Theory ducks, back body drops LA Knight up into the air over the top rope, and then grabs his head and like guides his head onto the turnbuckle as LA Knight's feet land on the apron. What a tremendous move. The timing was there. I thought it looked really cool. I haven't seen that a lot. And then Austin Theory slides to the outside and now does the neck breaker on the floor with LA Knight's feet still on the ring apron.
So
yeah, what a great move.
So
yeah, the closest they came to a dive was LA Knight doing the missile drop kick through the bottom rope while Austin Theory was on the outside, which I think is a better move anyway.
Yeah, missile dropkick's a better move anyway. So they don't do the dive commercial. They do something unique commercial.
Yep.
And then let's say, another thing was I only have one more spot. So Austin Theory did kind of like a reverse bulldog. It wasn't a bulldog per se, but he hits this weird type like bulldog looking move. It's like a variation on it.
The rolling, that blockbuster neck breaker.
It was, blockbuster neck breaker. There you go.
Yeah, what a fantastic. These guys are both so athletic.
Yeah.
Even at their size.
I'm
Great
telling you,
match.
I had 6 notes for this because I like all the spots. I was like, they're doing good. They're doing good. They're doing good. I don't think I've had 6 notes in a while, so it was a hell of a match. LA Knight over. We'll talk a little bit more about LA Knight later in the show, but let's talk about the last match.
How about post-match backstage? Do you want to go there?
Oh, sure.
Paul Heyman is talking to Adam Pearce, and in walks LA Knight. And LA Knight and Paul Heyman wind up having a mini confrontation afterwards, where Paul Heyman starts off saying he's a big fan and like he notices that LA Knight's getting over, but then he kind of tries to put him in his place. He does the yeah to him. Like, everybody got your catchphrases going, yeah. And then right at the end, Paul Heyman says something like, if you see that the room is occupied and someone tells you that I'm in here doing business, why don't you stay out next time? You got it. And then, LA Knight looks right at him, leans in and goes, yeah.
Right.
So now LA Knight and the bloodline and the rub. I always ask when something I see like this, who does this help? This helps LA Knight, right?
Yeah.
You want to see this. I don't know how he can be involved with the bloodline, but the fact that he's being acknowledged by other great people, this helps LA Knight. Do you like this from Paul Heyman?
So I like the idea that one of the guys that can dethrone Roman is LA Knight. And maybe that's what they're already kind of alluding to. You're going to have a bunch of baby faces that could potentially be in the running. And I said them already. It's Cody Rhodes, Jey Uso, and LA Knight. Those are the 3 I can think of that are baby faces. Maybe Seth Rollins, but it feels like he's going to just have that title for a while.
Okay.
But those are the top 4 I'd say that would be in the mix.
Wow. Okay. So you're looking way ahead. And so when you see this, were you already thinking along those lines, or did this confrontation here put it into your mind that, maybe LA Knight has a future at the top of the card?
I was kind of thinking about it. And I was like, wouldn't it be something if he won the title at WrestleMania? That would be amazing because he is way over.
Yeah.
And that would be pretty crazy if they made that move. And then in addition to that, I saw that exchange between LA Knight and Paul Heyman tonight, and maybe that's what they're thinking. Maybe they said, don't put the U.S. title on him. We could build something toward WrestleMania.
Wow. Okay. So you're looking farther ahead than I am in fantasy booking more than I am. I just thought it for where LA Knight is now and where it looks like the current story is trying to go. I thought this was good for him. I thought this helped him.
Yeah.
And I liked Paul Heyman in this role as well. It wasn't really Roman confronting LA Knight. That may be too much to see on your TV screen at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But Paul Heyman being smarmy and kind of trying to take a dig at a guy. Yeah, that worked. Good work by Paul Heyman as usual. So I liked it.
For sure.
One match left, unless you got more to say about this.
No, one match left. Do you want to call it here?
Sure, it was the opening match, Charlotte Flair and Shotzi versus Bayley and Io Sky. They gave them about 9 minutes for this. This was the shortest match of the night at 9 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a really good match too. I mean, I don't want to say it was a classic or anything, but I thought Shotzi looked really good and looked like she held her own against two A-listers in Charlotte Flair and Bayley, and someone who currently has a belt in Io Sky. I thought Shotzi did not look out of place in this match, and that's always kind of what I fear in this match. Like, you play that one of these things is not like the other. One of these things does not belong. But it looked like Shotzi kind of belonged. Like she held her own physically in this match and for what she was doing. So good for her to be in here. This match, of course, finishes with a distraction from Asuka, who's back after a few weeks of not being on TV. Asuka comes through the crowd, goes over to Dakota Kai, who's holding Io Sky's title belt while she wrestles, and basically takes the belt from Dakota Kai. And this causes a huge distraction from Bayley, who now sees it, who was trying to do a top turnbuckle move. But hey, this distraction leads to the final sequence is Shotzi pinning Bayley, which, hey, good for Shotzi. This was the thing we thought we were going to see in a singles match, but we just didn't get it. And maybe it was really Bayley's legitimate injury that meant they couldn't do it. But they wind up getting it into a tag team where Shotzi kind of gets her revenge on Bayley. So I like that as well.
Yeah.
So what do you think about everything that happened here? Maybe even Asuka coming in. A lot of stuff to talk about in this match again. Again, there's more than one thing to get your attention in these matches. Where do you want to go?
Shotzi came out, and I'm like, oh, where's her hair? I was like, oh, wait a second. I forgot about that. Bayley cut it off because they never really finished that rivalry.
It's no, just a month and a half ago, they cut her hair off.
They cut her hair off. But she does look different because so if she's looking for a new gimmick, I mean, she still came out with a tank, so it probably ain't that much different. She's still doing the goofy tank. So she comes out, and I'm like, okay, Shotzi's back. Cool. Her hair's still short. All right. I liked Charlotte with the hot chops, and I call them like she does the hot tag and just starts chopping, and the Boston crowd responds like crazy, and they're wooing during the chops. Yeah. That's what you want from an opener. You want the crowd getting into it, so they're doing the woos during the chops. Charlotte, as always, A+ professional. And then my third thing was this is a big win for Shotzi. I feel like I haven't seen her win. I haven't seen her wrestle. She's been around. They did the one weird gimmick promo with her, and I was a little worried it was going to turn into, the Bray Wyatt stuff. But, it never did, which is good. So, some of the Bray Wyatt's later stuff wasn't great. But, yeah, so anyways, she's back. She gets a win. I wonder if she's going to get some kind of push or at least a rivalry here with Bayley.
Yeah, instead of maybe being the blow off of their feud, is this the start of something? You don't know. Charlotte Flair comes out first. Shotzi follows her, but Charlotte Flair comes out first, and you're talking about having the crowd into it. What a great way to get your crowd into it is, you have a small video package to begin the show, and then you go right into a match, and it's Charlotte Flair who walks out. The crowd's going to react. So yeah, they booked a good opening match that had instant interest and instant engagement with fans by having Charlotte Flair out for it. Anything from the match you wanted to talk about, or do you want to touch on the Asuka and Io Sky stare down in the ring, and then they did a little backstage vignette where they have Asuka saying she wants that belt, she wants a title shot?
Yeah, I think we're pretty good to go here.
This isn't going to be a Dave Meltzer special, right? This is going to be a Japanese women's strong style match between Asuka and Io Sky.
Oh, the only thing is Dave is a little anti-women with his matches often, but he loves the Japanese style. So we'll see. We'll see. I think because it's going to be two Japanese people, it will go above everything else. So, oh man, they're doing strong style stuff. Like it's going to rank high. But now, if it was 2 men, they would all be 5 stars. If they're in the Tokyo Dome and they go 5 minutes, it's going to go 5 stars. So,
Oh wow! So there's a
no,
lot of ingredients that go into the matchmaking. All right. I mean, I don't have I don't have the bias towards the Japanese style that say maybe Dave Meltzer does, but I know we've talked about Dave Meltzer has been really high on Asuka before.
yeah.
I am too. I'd like to see this match. I do wonder if maybe their styles are too similar, but on the other hand, Io's more of a high flyer and Asuka's more of a submission wrestler. So I think it's going to look great because they're both very flamboyant, colorful outfits, colorful faces, colorful hair. I mean, they're very flamboyant in that they're very visually expressive, and I think they're going to have a pretty good match. I wonder when this will be down the line, but yeah, you're wondering when they were going to just say, "All right, we've got 2 great Japanese stars on our program and on our brand. When do we bring them together for a one-on-one?"
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to it. Specifically because they're both. Well, I would say Asuka's a great worker and Io is a good worker. So
Yeah.
you're going to get a good match out of them. All right, Dom. So that's the show as far as SmackDown is concerned. Anything that we missed here, or should we jump into?
I think it's drive time. We got to put a bow on it, right?
It's drive time, baby. Drive time.
It's time for the thumb drive. Are we trying to distill everything down into a simple thumb up or thumb down from each of us? Do you want to go alternating or simultaneous today? We haven't done simultaneous in a while. Do you want to do simultaneous?
Let's do simultaneous. All right, ready?
All right.
3,
Sure.
2, 1.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thumb up.
yeah.
We got 4 good matches. The shortest was 9 minutes, and they didn't drag. There were no there were no squashes. I don't think there was a lot of botchy matches. Even the segments made sense. Very little of this show dragged and had me thinking, "Oh, this is going too long." The one thing that was, LA Knight properly called it out and said, "You guys are boring us." So I think this was a good show. I think we saw things that we hadn't seen before, like Jimmy Uso being a singles wrestler, and it wasn't terrible. Like, it worked.
Yeah.
Like, he was pretty good in there. I mean, yes, he was in there with AJ, which helps. But yeah, he looked good in there. The tag match looked good. I'm happy for Shotzi. I'm happy for LA Knight. I'm even happy for the people who lost. Like, Austin Theory looked good in losing.
Yeah.
Grayson Waller and Austin Theory look like they might be a fun pairing there.
Yeah.
Bailey and Io Sky, they didn't look bad losing, and Io Sky now has head-to-head clash with Asuka coming up. It looks like I like everything we saw here. I like getting the Judgment Day on SmackDown. I like seeing Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits win their new gimmick. I think everything here worked. Was it like pay-per-view quality SmackDown? No, but it's a SmackDown.
Yeah. I think some of the stuff is with SmackDown, we'll see like the Grayson Waller effect in the middle of it. And then like another talking segment. And usually the talking segments, like unless they're bloodline, like they can get real shaky.
Yep.
And then you'll have a match that's too short, like a squash. They'll have like 3 squash matches and it doesn't do anything for anybody. And you're like, well, that's usually a bad SmackDown. They gave us 4 good matches. I would say you could make the argument that any of them you would say, oh, that was the match of the night. You'd be like, oh, yeah, maybe that was the match of the night because they were all 4 good matches. So you can't really complain. 4 good TV matches. We still have storyline progressing and like little subtle vignettes in the back and things that are happening after the matches. So, yeah, good SmackDown.
But it all had to do with what was happening in the ring.
Yes.
Like, it wasn't as if the in-ring action got cast aside for storylines tonight. They gave a lot of time and a lot of effort. Mm-hmm. Good quality in-ring work and storylines kind of built in all around it. I liked it too. I'm with you. This was a good balance between story and in-ring action.
Perfect. Well, we both give it 2 thumbs up. So you know what that means. Once we're done with the thumb drive, it's time for some cheap heat, baby. Cheap heat. We essentially will review some trending topics in the wrestling world. We'll make short videos out of them. And we're trying to get
Tell us what you think if you're watching on the live stream, if you're watching the recording. Tell us what you think of our analysis so far, but also cheap heat. This is where, wrestling is bigger than WWE Smackdown. So this is your chance to chime in. Tell us what you like about what we're covering, and maybe if you have some suggestions. How come you guys aren't talking about this? It was a huge story.
For sure. So let me go ahead and let me talk to you. And let's talk about the first cheap heat. I mentioned it early in the show. Let me go ahead and share my screen before I go on my rant.
Yeah, it's LA Knight, isn't it?
LA Knight. So there's a specific line that LA Knight hits here, and it's referencing a Kevin Nash promo. So I'm going to show them back to back. So here is LA Knight. So
yeah,
this is referencing Kevin Nash. That's basically it.
That's the reference.
So this is the reference LA Knight drops is the incorrect use of the word adjective. Now, Dom, I know that you were a journalist for a national media source, and you've done some work, in sports journalism. What did you think of this drop here, or this insult by L.A. Knight?
I may have been one of the 5 people in the world who got this immediately when LA Knight said it, because I remember this promo from 27 years ago from Kevin Nash. And I also remember that at the time, yeah, people kind of knew that he screwed up the part of speech. It's not an adjective, it's a verb. But at the same time, it was a great promo. Like, so what if it was a little bit flubbed in there? And as the years went on, this Kevin Nash promo was referenced as a reason why you should not overscript your talent. Like, so what if they make a little tiny mistake? If they have the feeling and they have the character and it looks real, it's still a great promo. Now, on the other hand, fast forward 27 years, I know that Kevin Nash, in some sort of shoot interview on a podcast, was critical of LA Knight for being too much of a ripoff. He thought LA Knight's character is too much of a ripoff of maybe Attitude Era stuff, The Rock, Austin, other guys in that mold. Putting that all together, as soon as LA Knight says this, all of that I knew. And I laughed right away. Right away. But like, who else? How many other people got that? It didn't seem like anybody in the Boston Garden got it.
No, but
or whatever they call it now, the TD Bank, TD Ameritrade Garden, whatever they call it. He makes this line and it falls flat. So is this LA Knight just really speaking to a small portion of the very vocal internet crowd? And is that a bad thing or is that a good thing in 2023?
I'll tell you what, the way that he was able to essentially sneak that little line in and bury Kevin Nash about his inability to understand the difference between an adjective and a verb, and to make it work in a way that we look at, how do I say this? I think that his ability to shoot a promo, and he's able to sneak that in, and most of the crowd doesn't get it, and he can go about his day on the promo, and the promo is so good that he's hitting other audience members that are watching, and now people are going to be talking about it, getting some buzz. Yes. In addition to that, the whole promo was great, like every one of his promos. So it's very, I would say what he's doing right now is he's very advanced on the mic, where he could say one or two sentences, which is a throwback to a 27-year-old promo about a guy who's not even affiliated with WWE. Fantastic work, LA Knight. Bravo.
And it was kind of meta, wasn't it? Because he's being accused of being a ripoff, so he basically parodies a 27-year-old NWO promo. Right. Hey, I'm a ripoff. Okay. Hey, what about that verb there? Play. And he goes right into it. This is the Kevin Nash put down of WCW 27 years ago. Oh, this is where you guys play. He's doing it to the Miz.
Right.
This is like meta.
Whoever wrote it or figured it out or told him to do it, or if he figured it out, was great. Right. So yeah, that's LA Knight. And I think that was the top cheap heat here, Dom. So
Do you like you mentioned this, that now it has more legs thanks to internet culture and social media. So this happens at Friday's show. People are going to be sharing that little clip and talking about it for who knows how long, right?
a week or so now. I think it'll go on like, oh, wait a second, he buried Kevin Nash. And let me let you share your screen. I think it was good that, okay, so I'll say another thing that was good about it. LA Knight didn't do anything rude or nasty.
No.
He just made fun of something that it's just funny to make fun of someone for having poor grammar.
And frankly, 27 years later, if Kevin Nash takes a shot at him on a podcast, yeah.
Get him.
Yeah. 27 years later, I'm going to bury your one flub in that otherwise great promo. Yeah.
People don't forget, Kevin. People don't forget.
I didn't forget.
You didn't forget either.
I didn't forget either, John. I remembered.
Oh, God.
Notice the noun there. Forget. Wait. No. That was verb again. God on it.
Got it. Yeah.
Anyway, Cheap Heat started months and months and months ago when there were rumors about WWE behind the scenes, the business side, the corporate side. So this is really a throwback for us doing Cheap Heat here. The biggest business talk of all is when this UFC WWE merger is set to close, and it looks like they've announced it for this Tuesday. They're going to start trading on the New York Stock Exchange as TKO is their sticker symbol here for, let's bump this up a bit, for the new TKO Group Holdings. And you see a big photo there from the memorial show they did on SmackDown. But there you go. This was announced in April. This article was released on Thursday. So WWE stock was trading at about $100 a share, which was up 12% since the deal was revealed. Now, since then, it's down to about $98 as of Friday, as you can see here. Now, this is still above where it was. The market cap here is now about a little more than $8 billion. We were talking about, the WWE was valued at $9 billion in the merger, and you have to overpay for something.
Mm-hmm.
So they were overpaying at the time, but since that deal was announced, WWE was closing in on that $9 billion valuation. In fact, as late as late August here, as you can see on my screen, it was trading well above $100 a share. So back then, the valuation was above $9 billion. Then they announced around that last week of August that the merger was going to close sometime mid-September. And that's when people who had ridden the stock up started to sell a bit. But as you can see, it's investors, it didn't plummet. Investors kind of held it. And now it's staying pretty steady, just under $100. I think this is good news for the WWE. They successfully announced their merger. They got interest in the stock. And now that they've announced that the deal is going to close, some traders took a profit, but the stock is still strong. This is good news for both companies separately going into the merger. It's good news, I think, for what will be the merged company as of Tuesday, the new TKO. Ratings for the previous SmackDown, not the one we just watched recapping today, but the September 1st one, down slightly from the 2.67 million viewers that watched the tribute show, but still, that's a huge number. That's almost 2.5 million. That's a big number. So they're holding steady in the ratings. They're holding steady with their publicly traded stock price and their company valuation. The programming seems to be doing well. So I think WWE is in a better business place than it was when we started on September 30th of last year.
Right.
Vince is back, but we kept thinking last year, is Vince coming back to take over? Yes and no. Vince is back, but since he actually sold the company, he's not taking over.
Yeah. He came back to take over to sell it.
Right? Who could have written that swerve?
Right. Oh my, that was such a funny transition. He's like tells the shareholders, "Hey, I think I want to come back I think there's opportunity to sell, or not the shareholders, the board members. Hey,
Yep.
I think I want to come back. I have some ideas. Like I should come back. And then the board members are like, no, no, no. Like unanimously say no, don't come back. And then he just fires all the board members and goes back. He's like, no, I'm still the boss, so you're all fired. I'm back in. Okay.
He's like, hey guys, I was doing a little reading and I just was looking into who has 80% of the voting power still.
Right.
It's me. Whoa.
Yeah. He went ahead and then just bullied himself back into the boardroom, sold the WWE, and I guess he'll be working for whoever purchases this. I don't know who it would be specifically.
Yes, he's supposed to be in the C-suite of the new company.
Yeah.
He's not the guy in charge. He won't be CEO of the merged company, but he'll be, I believe, parallel to Dana White, maybe.
Yeah.
Because Dana White's not going to be the CEO of the new merged company either, for the president of UFC, the guy who founded UFC and built it into the huge, successful business that it is. So I think under somebody else at the top, you're going to have Dana and Vince over their respective brands.
To be a fly on the wall of these meetings with Dana White and Vince McMahon, my God. Those two are, I mean, Vince is already a known character playing the worst, like the best heel ever as Mr. McMahon. Mm-hmm. And then Dana White, who is like real up against the grain, excitable, crazy promoter that just uses the F word constantly, like very unprofessional. So should be interesting to see.
They're a tag team, just made for each other, aren't they?
Right. Yeah. But anyways,
I wish them much success. I watched their product. I'm a fan of it. Great job. It's been a while coming. And are you surprised that Vince was able to do this?
No, good for him. I think he struck when the iron was hot, and he's been waiting for an opportunity like this. Could have always had it, and eventually saw it and knew that he was kind of on his way out with his own company, and was like, there's a lot of money in live events. Let's sell the company. We'll take the billions of dollars, and I'll just take a job working for the company for the next 2 years, and who knows what's next? Maybe he goes to AEW after 2 years. Who knows?
Oh no, we can't have that. No.
No, because
you can never say never in pro wrestling, right?
Because he still owns. He would still own some of the WWE, right?
The new company will be issuing its own stock, so Vince is going to get a portion of the new company's stock that matches how much WWE stock he owned.
Okay, so he won't go to AEW. I digress.
Well, I mean, this sets him in a position where if he does want to retire, he could sell his stock in TKO incrementally, and it not cause a panic.
Yeah.
If Vince all of a sudden started selling shares of the WWE, that's a panic. Yeah. But if WWE becomes kind of like the little brother in a new merged company, and Vince, a few years down the line, is now retired and, starts selling incrementally, that's not really much of a panic.
So what you're saying is Vince could sell all of his stock and then buy AEW. If he wanted to.
Well, I mean, anything is possible.
Yeah. And then he shows up on TBS.
And then he shows up. Oh, yes. And then he shows up on TBS. Yes. We've now purchased AEW.
Yeah, right.
Except he's a little late, and it winds up being Stephanie McMahon who comes out.
Right.
It says McMahon on that document, but it's Stephanie McMahon.
Right.
Stephanie McMahon Levesque, however she signs her name. Yes. So, oh boy. If we're not going back to, 20-something years ago in this episode of Don't Bury the Lead, wow. From Kevin Nash to buyouts of competitors. But hey, that's the story of WWE behind the scenes on the business side. Interesting to me, and interesting since, Cheap Heat has become a bigger deal for us. This is what started it.
Mm-hmm.
WWE and Vince McMahon talk. Hey, speaking of AEW, don't bury the lead on AEW. It looks like Samoa Joe and MJF had a big run-in at All Elite Wrestling's All Out event. There's MJF leaving the ring there, as you see on their Twitter feed here. Joe gives him a shove there. And by the way, that's a callback. Can you hear this as I'm playing it?
No, I don't.
Volume? No, okay. So you're just watching the video there. I'll pause it there. This is a throwback to MJF, as he alluded to in a later promo. He had a tryout with WWE, and he was one of the kind of ring security who walked the wrestler out. And he walked Samoa Joe out for an NXT thing and got a little too close to Joe, and Joe just shoved him.
Yep.
And so he's replaying this now during their all-out pay-per-view that was this past Sunday. MJF and Adam Cole win their tag team match. You could see them both on the screen there in the Twitter clip there, and I'll make that a little larger for you. And then Joe, coming out for his match, brushes MJF and shoves him. And MJF does not like this at all. And he goes to, get in there with Samoa Joe. This looks like it's suddenly the new top angle is MJF versus Samoa Joe in AEW. This is them doing major cleanup for the fallout from CM Punk, isn't it? Because I can't imagine MJF brought this up. This comes to us from WrestleZone here. He had a message to Samoa Joe on Dynamite this past week. As we were saying, recall the time when Samoa Joe shoved him during his entrance during an NXT TakeOver Premium Live event. And, now they're going back and forth on Twitter. MJF is saying, Max is going to kill you, which is Samoa Joe's line. And Samoa Joe going back, man, I hope that kid is okay. Still calling him a kid. Yeah. So this is all their this is them really laying into each other on Twitter here. Samoa Joe has lost his previous 2 matches to CM Punk. Had this been the plan all along, Joe would have went over it all in, right? It would have evened up his feud with CM Punk, set up maybe a rubber match, and that would have been a better transition into, okay, now that CM Punk's gone, we gotta quickly shift gears and get and not only opponent for Joe, but we got to get an opponent for MJF at the top of the card. And it becomes Joe. I mean, this is an awkward position, but do you think you're an AEW watcher? Was this awkward, A? And B, how soon will Samoa Joe be able to make people forget about the awkwardness that preceded it and raise this to an A-level feud if they take it there?
Yeah, it's tough because Joe did lose the feud. Then he's going to go face the champ, which seems like he's okay. If he had won the feud, it would make a lot of sense, especially because CM Punk was supposed to be seen as very high. But maybe it's one of these things where, hey, maybe this is some of the critique that Tony Khan gets with booking, because it doesn't make any sense. Like, why would Joe now wrestle with MJF? But really, they're in a tough spot because you need a good guy to wrestle MJF, and Samoa Joe's there, and he needs wins against good guys. So
isn't this good booking then? Like they're pivoting very quickly to a guy who maybe can make people forget the awkwardness that just preceded this a week and a half ago, right?
Yeah.
Do you like this as an AEW fan? Do you like this feud? Do you like that they went quickly to this rather than let the CM Punk stuff
I think
simmer?
I think there's a couple guys that can fill the role that CM Punk is going to leave by him leaving. And 2 of them specifically are, 1, Samoa Joe as a veteran. He's a popular veteran that's been around. He's arguably as popular as CM Punk. And then Bryan Danielson. Bryan Danielson is also in that same wheelhouse. He's already feuded with MJF, so it'd be kind of like you can't do that twice. But whatever they were going to plan to do with CM Punk, they could just put Bryan Danielson and plug him in. And he's a better worker than CM Punk, and he's great on the mic. So He's not going to be as crazy on the mic, where he's going to say crazy stuff about fighting people in the back and stuff like that. You're going to have like a reasonable human being on the mic with Samoa Joe and Daniel Bryanson. So, yeah.
Is Samoa Joe a placeholder feud for MJF to get back to Bryan Danielson, or do you think this could
I'm
be a
calling him.
formidable feud where you could see Joe maybe taking the belt from him?
I'm calling him his old name. Sorry. Bryan Danielson. I could see. I don't think that he'll take the belt from him, but he'll be a good competitor for MJF. And it could be a match that's like, whoa, this is one of the best matches MJF's ever had. And that's what you're really looking for at a guy like Samoa Joe.
Okay, well, speaking of one of the best matches somebody ever had, Cody Rhodes, you can make the argument that his feud with Nick Aldis for the NWA title, the 10 pounds of gold from a few years ago, was maybe Cody's best work. It led to really the formation of AEW because it showed that somebody outside of WWE in modern wrestling could just put on a great show, and with social media and other internet presences, just garner enough fan support and fan interest to do it. Nick Aldis, it looks like he's been working behind the scenes on a handshake deal with the WWE. He was on Chris Van Vliet's podcast talking about a number of things, and one of them was his WWE role at the moment and his status with the WWE. I'll make it a little bigger for our viewers here. They just invited me to come in, see how everything works. Shadow is a producer, but he's on a handshake deal. Be part of the meetings, the whole television. He's worn a lot of hats in his career. Most known for being NWA champion for several years. And that was his most recent one. He and Cody traded the belt for a while during their great feud. What do you think of Nick Aldis being behind the scenes? Do you know much about Nick Aldis? Is he an asset to the WWE, even if he's only a producer? Would you like to see him try to get back in the ring? What do you think about this?
I know Nick Aldis. Was he in TNA Power
He was
Hour?
in Impact for a while as Magnus.
Okay, well, he was never in TNA, or he wasn't in a NWA Power Hour. Was he?
Yes, he was. He held the belt there for a long time.
Yeah, I saw a commercial with him for their video game that was really good. And I remember him from that, but I never saw him wrestle. So I remember that about him. So I have to say, I have to plead ignorance. I don't know a ton about Nick Aldis.
I like him in the ring. I like him on the mic. Everything as a WWE fan that you've seen from Cody Rhodes, Nick Aldis is Cody Rhodes' equal on the mic as a character, in the ring as a wrestler, as a worker, as a guy who has, I'll say it, gravitas. Like he looks like $1 million. He carries himself like a champion, or as a guy who should be in that conversation. If you've enjoyed Cody Rhodes coming back to the WWE and have found it that it's believable that Cody's in that role that he's in now at the top of the card, Nick Aldis could do that. One of the things he's been talking about is, and so now, people say, are you not wrestling anymore? Because he's, just shadowing as a producer. Have you retired? I mean, even the boys are saying that, like, are you done wrestling? And he says, it's like, slow down. So maybe he's got another match in him. Would you like to see, since you've only seen him peripherally from the NWA video game commercials, you've heard about him, would you like to see Nick Aldis show up and wrestle? I would. I will say I would. I think he's got something left in the tank. If he's healthy, I would like to see him.
I saw that he was an NWA champ for a very long time, so that would indicate to me they've got some good guys coming out of the NWA, so that'd be kind of cool to see.
And one of them he mentions further down in this interview, L.A. Knight. He was there as Eli Drake while Nick Aldis was there in the NWA for a while, and he's very much happy for his old colleague, L.A. Knight. And he said, look, it doesn't come as any surprise to me. I don't think it has come to us as a surprise for anyone who has followed his stuff in the last few years. There's a lot of people outside of the WWE who are following LA Knight and who are gaining some hope from it, that this guy showed up in the WWE finally at 39 years of age after paying a lot of dues on the indie circuits, on maybe slightly below WWE promotions. And so there's a lot of people watching LA Knight and cheering for him because it shows that you're not washed up at 35 or even 40. It shows you're not, you haven't missed your chance and missed the boat if you didn't go through WWE developmental as a 20 something and just succeed coming through their pipeline.
It's an interesting
And maybe Nick Aldis is one of those guys eyeing it, but yeah, LA Knight means so much to so many people outside of the WWE.
And once you're like LA Knight and you're in, they got a lot of old wrestlers. Like you look at Rey Mysterio,
Sure.
Trish Stratus. Like I think the beginning of Payback, I was like, man, LA Knight's like the young guy out here.
Yeah, Edge.
Edge, yeah, right, Edge. But anyways, good stuff, Dom.
Also, he's married to Mickie James. Y'all remember Mickie James, right?
Yes, for sure.
They have children together. They have a good family life, so he doesn't need to get back into wrestling. So maybe he does just stick around as a producer. If you want to hear the full interview, find Chris Van Vliet either on his website here or on podcast.chrisvanvliet.com. But you can find him on your favorite podcast. He's on YouTube as well. Go check out the full interview if you have some time. Interesting stuff. I like it. I like Nick Aldis. If he's behind the scenes in WWE, I imagine he's contributing positively. If he's going to step out and be an on-screen character, I think he has potential. So that's what I got for Cheap Heat.
All right. Thanks so much. So that's Cheap Heat. And now,
what do you guys think? Tell us what you think if you're watching there. What do you think of the stories we've covered here today? What do you think of what we've been covering? Give us a comment. Send us a like, subscribe if you haven't yet. Get the rest of our content. John, you mentioned earlier that not only do we do this big full show once a week, but we release other clips and maybe some of those shorts videos that are under a minute during the other days of the week. Follow us. Know when our content drops.
Yeah, follow us and subscribe on our home base Facebook. We are now over 200 subscribers. So
on YouTube, baby.
Yeah, on YouTube. We're on El Fuego, if you will. Our YouTube subscribers, we are up to 200. We just did 100, but that's grown pretty rapidly, and we're up to 200. No glasses tonight because our next big milestone is 250. Then after that, we're going to go to 500, where we'll be officially monetized by YouTube at 500. So that's going to be very exciting. There will be champagne that night.
There will be champagne. There may be some announcements about some "Don't Bury the Lead" merch.
Yeah, we talked.
Don't bury the merch, baby.
NASCAR is fake. That's going to happen. Get a T-shirt that says NASCAR is fake. Come on, just do it. Yeah, so we're looking forward to that, and thanks so much for joining and appreciate it. Dom, anything else before we log off here?
No, it's been a good show. It's been a fun week. A lot of news from outside that we covered as well. I think it's been another good show, and we'll see you again next SmackDown when we review that on Don't Bury the Lead.
All right, perfect, Dom. Well, thank you so much for joining, Dom. Thanks, everyone else, and have a great rest of your evening.